The world called Ethan Kross unstoppable, a billionaire who built empires out of steel, glass, and ice. But behind the sharp suits and spotless success was a man who had once chosen ambition over love. 3 years ago, Ethan ended his relationship with Maya Carter, the only woman who'd ever seen the man behind the mask. "You mean nothing to me," he'd told her. Words that sliced deeper than any blade. He never looked back. Until one phone call shattered the illusion of control he'd built his life upon. A car accident? A little boy fighting for his life. And a name on the hospital record that shouldn't have been there. When Ethan walked into that sterile white room, he wasn't prepared to see the woman he'd destroyed, holding the hand of a child with his eyes. Ethan Kross didn't believe in love. He believed in control. By 32, he had built Crosstech into one of the fastest-growing corporations in New York. He didn't sleep much, didn't laugh often, and didn't believe in distractions. Love to him was weakness. The last time he'd seen love, it had bankrupted his father and destroyed his family's name. Maya Carter had walked into his life when he least expected it. A young marketing intern with bright eyes and no sense of fear. She wasn't impressed by his wealth or power. She spoke to him like he was human, not a CEO, not a billionaire, but a man. At first, he'd kept his distance, but late nights turned into long talks. Long talks turned into quiet dinners. And before he knew it, she was part of his world. The one thing he didn't know how to control. Maya made him feel human. She made coffee for his 2 a.m. meetings, laughed at his rare attempts at humor, and believed there was still good left in him. He told himself it was temporary, that she'd get tired of his coldness, his silence. But she didn't. She stayed, loving him fiercely, even when he barely knew how to love back. Then came the Asia Tech merger, the biggest deal of his career. It would make him one of the most powerful men in the industry. The only problem, the board had one condition: no personal scandals, no distractions. That same week, Maya found out she was pregnant. She told him one night in his penthouse, her hands trembling, eyes glistening with both fear and hope. "Ethan, we're going to have a baby." He froze. His mind didn't go to love or joy, it went to the headlines, the deal, the investors, the empire he'd built from nothing. "Maya," he whispered, running a hand through his hair. Her smile faded. "You're not happy?" He hesitated. "This isn't the right time." "There's never a right time for love," she said softly. "There's just now." He turned away. "I can't afford this. I can't afford you to become a liability." Her breath caught. A liability? He couldn't look at her. "You mean nothing to me," he said coldly. The silence that followed was heavier than any boardroom battle. She left that night, heartbroken, carrying the only piece of him that was still real. Ethan buried himself in work. He told himself it was for the best. He signed the deal, made billions, and was crowned the youngest visionary of the year. But some nights, when the city lights faded and silence filled his glass tower, he heard her voice, the one that had once called him Ethan, not Mr. Kross. 3 years passed. He built more, earned more, felt less. Until one evening, his assistant, Lily, rushed into his office, face pale. "Sir, there's been an accident." He barely looked up. "Then call legal. Handle it." Lily shook her head. "It's not about the company, sir. It's personal." He frowned. "Personal?" She swallowed hard. "It's about a boy. He's at St. Mercy Hospital. The file? It has your name listed as the father." The pen fell from his hand. "What?" "They said his mother is Maya Carter." For the first time in years, Ethan forgot about meetings, deals, and deadlines. He grabbed his coat, his pulse pounding so hard it drowned out reason. The roads blurred beneath him. The city that had once bowed to him now felt like an endless maze as he ran through the hospital doors. His world, built on control and ambition, began to crumble. He didn't know what waited behind that door. All he knew was that somewhere inside, a woman he'd destroyed, and a child he'd never met, were waiting, and for the first time, Ethan Kross, the man who had everything, was terrified. The automatic doors slid open, and a rush of antiseptic air hit Ethan's face. Hospitals. The one place he never visited, too full of pain, too real. He walked through the hallway like a ghost, every step echoing with the weight of guilt he didn't yet understand. "Room 214, the nurse said softly, pointing toward the pediatric ward. He stopped outside the door, his hand hovering over the handle. He could hear faint beeping from machines, and a child's weak cough. For a man who faced billion-dollar negotiations without flinching, this one door terrified him. Finally, he pushed it open. The first thing he saw wasn't the machines, it was her. Maya. Her once lively hair was tied in a messy bun. her eyes tired, her face pale but still achingly beautiful. She was sitting beside a hospital bed, holding the hand of a little boy, a boy with dark curls and eyes that mirrored Ethan's own. For a second, Ethan forgot how to breathe. That face? Those eyes. He didn't need a DNA test. The truth was right there, staring at him through the fragile frame of a sleeping child. "Maya," he whispered. She looked up slowly, and when her gaze met his, time froze. It had been 3 years, but her expression said everything. Anger, pain, disbelief, and beneath it all, a flicker of something she was trying hard to hide. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was sharp, low, defensive. He opened his mouth, but the words came out broken. I got a call. They said, that's not possible." She cut in. "I didn't put your name anywhere." Then how? Her eyes flicked toward the door. "The hospital staff probably found an old insurance record." "It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be here." Ethan looked at the little boy again. "Is he?" "Yes," she said, coldly. "He's yours." The words hit harder than any boardroom betrayal. He stepped closer, his heart pounding so violently it hurt. "What happened to him?" She hesitated, then sighed. "Car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. He was in the back seat." Her voice cracked for just a moment before she regained control. "He's stable now, but there was internal bleeding. They're keeping him under observation." Ethan's gaze softened. "What's his name?" She looked down at the boy and whispered. "Noah." He repeated it under his breath, like a prayer. "Noah." He took another step, but Maya stood abruptly, blocking him. Don't pretend you care now, Ethan. You made it clear 3 years ago that we meant nothing." Her words stung, but he didn't fight them. "You're right, I did, and I've regretted it every day since." She laughed bitterly. "Regret doesn't raise a child. Regret doesn't pay hospital bills. Regret doesn't hold him when he wakes up screaming because he dreams of being alone." Her voice trembled, and for the first time, Ethan saw what his choices had cost, not in money, but in love. He looked at the small figure in the bed, tubes, machines, and tiny hands that reminded him of his own when he was a boy, scared, unloved, invisible. "I never knew," he said softly. "You never asked," she replied. He swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want your pity, or your money. You think everything can be fixed with a wire transfer. That's not true, isn't it? You were too busy building your empire. You didn't even look back the night I left." Ethan had faced countless interviews, investors, and enemies, but never had words felt this sharp. She was right. He hadn't looked back. Because if he had, he might have run after her. And that would have made him human. Weak, vulnerable now, standing there. He would have given up his entire empire to go back to that night. Noah stirred in his sleep, mumbling softly, "Mom." Maya instantly turned to him, brushing his hair back tenderly. Ethan watched, his chest tightening. When she leaned closer, the little boy's hand clutched hers tightly, and for a split second, his eyes flickered open. Dark brown eyes, Ethan's eyes. The boy blinked sleepily at Maya, then shifted his gaze toward Ethan. "Who's that man?" he asked weakly. Ethan froze. Maya's throat tightened. He's an old friend, sweetheart." Noah blinked again. "He looks like me." Maya's eyes glistened. "Yeah," she whispered. "A little." The boy smiled faintly before falling back asleep. Ethan stepped back, fighting the lump in his throat. He deserves to know the truth. Maya shook her head. "He's been through enough. He doesn't need to be confused by the man who abandoned him before he was even born." Her words pierced deep, but he stayed quiet. There was nothing he could say to undo what he'd done. He stayed by the door for hours, watching as she sang to their son softly, her voice cracking with exhaustion and love. The world outside, the business calls, the deals, the empire faded into static. In that small hospital room, everything that ever truly mattered was lying in that bed. When dawn approached, Maya stood to stretch, and Ethan gently spoke. "Maya, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, let me help. Let me be here for him." She looked at him, eyes tired and guarded. "You can't just walk back into our lives because you feel guilty. I'm not doing this out of guilt. I'm doing it because I finally understand what I lost." Maya crossed her arms. "You don't know what it means to love someone more than your ambition." He exhaled slowly. "Maybe not. But I want to learn, even if it's too late." Silence fell again. Then, reluctantly, she nodded. "Fine, you can stay. But for him, not for me." Ethan nodded, his voice breaking. "For him," and as the sun rose through the hospital window, casting golden light on his son's small face. Ethan realized something he'd never understood before. All the money, all the power, all the empires he'd built meant nothing compared to this moment. The days that followed were quiet, almost painfully so. Ethan spent hours in the hospital, but he never once overstepped. He watched Maya care for Noah, memorizing every detail, the way she brushed back his curls, the soft tones in her voice when she coaxed him to drink water, the way her eyes softened whenever he smiled. He had lived in penthouses that touched the sky, offices that commanded empires, but never had he felt so small, so utterly human. For the first time, he realized that wealth meant nothing without love. Ethan's presence wasn't welcomed with warmth at first. Maya kept her distance, maintaining a polite but unbreakable wall. "Remember," she reminded him, "I don't trust you, and Noah doesn't know you." Ethan nodded, accepting the invisible boundaries she set. "I'm here to learn, not to demand." Night fell, and the hospital ward grew quiet. Ethan found himself sitting beside Noah, watching his little chest rise and fall with the steady rhythm of life. He hesitated, then spoke softly. "Hey kiddo," he whispered. I'm Ethan, your dad." Noah stirred but didn't wake. Ethan smiled gently. "That's okay, we'll take it slow." Over the next few days, he remained consistent, reading bedtime stories, bringing small toys, learning the songs Noah liked, and mimicking the bedtime routines Maya had so lovingly established. Slowly, the boy's initial wariness began to fade. One evening, as Ethan helped Noah with a puzzle, the little boy looked up and said, "Daddy." The word landed in Ethan's chest like a bullet, and somehow, it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. Maya, who had been quietly watching from the side, gasped softly. Her eyes glistened. Ethan stumbled, feeling tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "Yes, buddy, I'm here." Noah smiled faintly, a small hand reaching out toward him. Ethan took it gently, feeling warmth spread through him, a warmth no boardroom, no business deal, no fortune could ever give. For the first time in years, Ethan understood the weight of responsibility, the meaning of unconditional love, and the depth of a bond that money couldn't buy. But redemption is never instant. Maya remained cautious. Every word Ethan said, every action he took, was measured against the years of pain he'd caused. One afternoon, she finally broke the silence. "You think you can make up for 3 years of absence with a few hospital visits and toys?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't think I can," he admitted. "I know I can't erase the past, but I can try to be the father your son deserves, and the man you once believed I could be." She studied him, searching for sincerity, for the man she had once loved. Slowly, she nodded. "We'll see." And they did see, in small moments. In Noah's laughter during playtime, in Ethan gently wiping tears when his son fell, in Maya noticing subtle changes in him, a softness in his tone, a willingness to prioritize love over work, a humility that had never existed before. Weeks passed, and Noah was discharged. The hospital became a memory, but the lessons lingered. Ethan insisted on handling Noah's follow-up appointments, attending school meetings, learning bedtime routines. He wanted to prove that his love was not temporary, that he was committed to being a father. One evening, after Noah fell asleep, Ethan and Maya sat together on the porch of her small apartment. It was quiet, save for the occasional laughter of children from a nearby park. "I never realized," Ethan began, "how empty my life was without him, without you." Maya looked away, biting her lip. "It's not just about him, it's about trust. You can't buy that back." "I know," he said softly, "and I don't expect you to. I only ask, let me stay, let me prove that I can be different, that I can be better." Her eyes met his, searching for the boy she once loved, the man she had trusted, the father her son deserved. After a long pause, she nodded. "Fine," she whispered, "but remember, it's not just me, it's him too. You have to earn his trust every day." "I will," he promised, holding her gaze with a sincerity that surprised even himself. Months later, the house echoed with laughter. Ethan, Maya, and Noah. The boy had grown attached to both parents, his tiny hands reaching for Ethan without hesitation. Ethan watched them, remembering the man he used to be, cold, ruthless, and alone, and felt gratitude for the second chance life had given him. Ethan still worked, still ran his empire, but now he knew what truly mattered. Business meetings could wait, bedtime stories could not, profits could be calculated, love could not. One quiet evening, Ethan held Noah in his arms, watching the city lights sparkle in the distance. Maya stood beside them, her hand resting on his shoulder. I never thought I'd see this day," she said softly. Ethan kissed the top of Noah's head. "Neither did I, but here we are. Together." Noah yawned, snuggling closer. Ethan smiled, tears threatening to fall. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about control, power, or wealth. He was thinking about family, forgiveness, and the boy who had made him whole again. And in that moment, Ethan realized something profound. He had finally become the man he was meant to be, a father, a partner, a man capable of love. He once said she meant nothing to him, but in a single hospital room, everything changed. Love doesn't always come when we expect it. Sometimes it waits, quietly, in the hands of a child, in a moment of forgiveness, or in the courage to admit our mistakes. Ethan's journey wasn't about wealth, power, or ambition. It was about learning what truly matters: family, trust, and love. No matter how far we stray, it's never too late to change, to make amends, and to embrace the people who mean the most. Life gives second chances in the smallest moments: a touch, a word, a child calling us mom or dad for the first time. What would you do if life gave you a second chance to fix your biggest mistake? Share your story in the comments, and let's celebrate love, redemption, and family together.